All right, welcome back. And today we're going to take a look at a new program, and that program is called On1 Photo Raw 2020. Now, On1 has been around for many years now. I used to use a program called Genuine Fractals, and then they bought that program and started using that and integrated it into their software as On1 Photo Resize, and now they have On1 Photo Raw, which is very similar to Lightroom. So the question is this an alternative that someone can purchase to use instead of Lightroom and Photoshop? Well, why would you do that? Well, because it's a one-time purchase versus Photoshop and Lightroom now, which is a cloud application in which you have to pay every month. The cool thing about On1 Photo Raw is it does have a whole bunch of different sections. It has an editing section, has an effects section, it has some retouching capabilities, and it has HDR. It has all kinds of different things that you can do. It can select backgrounds out of images. It does a whole bunch of different things. And it's also a raw photo editor. This seems like the path that they're heading down. So each day we're going to take a look at a certain aspect of On1 Photo Raw, see how it works. I'm going to explain to you its functions, and then I'll give you a little synopsis at the end about what I think about it and how it works. Just by default here, I've just navigated to any old folder on my hard drive, and that's what we're seeing here. So we have the option, and this is pretty interesting. I'll actually just go ahead and click on this plus up here. So when we're getting started, we can just simply edit a photo. So if you just wanted to simply not download anything, you just wanted to edit a photo, you could just navigate to that photo, edit it, and you'd be ready to go. You can also browse to a folder. So we could just go to a folder on an internal, external hard drive, on the cloud, anywhere that we want to go, and we can navigate to that folder, and we can browse the images just like I was doing here, and then we can go ahead and edit them. Or we can catalog our photos. So cataloging your photo is a great option for people that need to organize themselves. It will store your folder names, your slug names, your keywords, your metadata, just about anything you want it to do. Now, the problem with cataloging, however, is if you change the path, which is the location where your files are located, the computer won't be able to find your images anymore. The way I work, because I do such a high volume, I'm importing all my images to an external SSD. Once I'm done working with those files, I move them to another hard drive to store them, or a server. Now, the issue with this is it totally screws up cataloging functions within programs, and it drives me nuts. And probably the main reason why I don't use Adobe Lightroom, because I can't stand the cataloging function. I use Photo Mechanic instead of Lightroom as a browser. So what we're going to do is go ahead and take a look at this program, and we are going to just go ahead and close this window here. And when we open this window, this is the field that we get. So let's kind of take a look at what these different items are. Now, obviously, the first time you log in, you're going to have to navigate to a folder if you want to see something like this, but it works pretty good. So we just took a look at that little plus right there, and that's the getting started icon if you want just a simple way to get started. The next thing that we have here is open the desktop. So if I was to select that, it would just navigate right to your desktop and show you what's on there. The next thing that we have here is a camera icon. And what the camera actually means is it's going to a default location. You would set this default location in your preferences of On1 Photo Raw. So you're going to come up here, you're going to go to your preferences, and then you're going to start setting stuff. You'll see right here, we've got all kinds of different options here. So right down here, notice I've set my default SSD. So I can do some accent colors and things like that. Next thing we can come in here is set up how we want to edit images. Now, one of the cool things about On1 Photo Raw is you can actually use it as a plugin inside of Photoshop. So I've got this in Photoshop. If I want to go from Photoshop to here, I can go right into my filter down to On1 Photo and take that image right into On1 Photo. I can work on it and it will Once I'm done, I hit done and it will save it right back with those changes into Photoshop, which is a really cool function of the program. So down here, I'm just kind of telling it how I want those files to be edited and saved. I'm working in a PSD, Adobe 98 as my color space, and the bit depth of 16-bit. Right down here, we have the option to do the same for Lightroom. We have some system information of how you want your system to be used, and then some services that you want to be used in conjunction with this program. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Next thing we'll do is come over here to this folder. So this is to see your cataloged folders. So if you want to see the folders that you have actually cataloged. Now, remember, you can just work on a folder and not catalog it, which is absolutely wonderful. I love this function of the program. For me, cataloging is not going to work. So most likely you're never going to see images if I started using this. Catalog, I just simply want to work on the program. Then down here, if you want to see your local drives, so you would click on this, it's going to show you all your local drives and a quick and easy way to navigate to them. If you set this up, you can use any cloud service such as Google Drive or Dropbox that you want to navigate to and save your images to. You can go there. And then right down here, it's to see your albums. So if you want to create your own albums inside of this program, you can do that. It's going to save that information, and it's a quick access location to get to them. So let's scroll down here and see what this little guy says. So this is to open the preferences dialog, which we just did before. I just did it the slow manual way. Down here, we've got a little help section. Open the help web page in On1 Photo Raw. If you can't figure out how to do something, here's a little icon for you to learn how to do that. Down here is to hide and show the left panel. So we can hide and show the left panel. So if I want to see my left panel, which is showing my local drives and all that information. And for this tutorial, I think we're just going to go ahead and leave this information up because I think it's helpful. But if you wanted to hide it, you could just click right there and open it right back up. Under this left panel, we've got our catalog. I haven't actually created any catalog, so I just have by default my SSD on there. And that is the only catalog folder that I have, but I haven't loaded anything into it. So we have a browse section, and if we wanted to go to some of their presets, we could click that. So for right now, we're just going to go ahead and we will just do the My Catalogs, even though I'm not using anything. Now, if you want to create your own album, we're going to get into this and we'll come back to this in a second. So we have some search functions here, and this all has to do with the cataloging process. If you want to shoot tethered, meaning you want to connect your camera to this program, you would click this, and then as you take photos, it's instantly going to display them. If that's something that you do a lot of tabletop work or work in a studio, that can be very helpful. So we're going to go ahead and skip this, but we've got some recent items here. So these are recent folders or images that we've looked at. Down here, we've got a set of ways to view your thumbnails. So right now we are in grid, and you can control the size of these grids. You can obviously make these larger or smaller right down here. So we've got a little slider, so I can just come in here and slide this to make them bigger or smaller. I can view the image that is selected big. So it's showing me just that image here. If I wanted to make it even bigger, remember, I could instantly hide that section over there and then we don't see it anymore. If I want to view this with the big image, but then the thumbnail below it, I can do that down there. If we want to have two images selected, sort of a compare view, kind of a before and after, you would do this. Now, obviously I haven't made any adjustments or selected any images. So if I select two images, now I can see the two images right next to each other. And then right here, our last one is a map view. So I can click on this and it would set up a map view, and I could put in the location of where I shot this. This isn't really anything that I ever do. And look, it's coming up to Portland, probably Oregon, I'm guessing, a place I've never actually been. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to my favorite window, which is large thumbnail and then the smaller thumbnails below that. Over here, we have a small nav window. We can change this to levels or information about the image. I think we'll just go ahead and leave it at levels for right now. Down here we have metadata. Any metadata that you have or have saved will be applied right here, and we can make our own preset. And this is something that we will be doing because I think it's very valuable as a photographer. Now it's picking up some information because I've already actually imported this before. These are all older files, so it's picking up my metadata, which it should do. So right down here, we've got the ability to show the Axis information, IPTC, location information, or none if that's the way you want it. So right now we'll just leave it on none, even though most likely I would normally put IPTC. We have a keyword list. So the keyword is automatically picking up on keywords in files on my SSD. And what it allows me to do is it just kind of come in here and click this. And by clicking this, I'm automatically going to be adding these keywords or applying them to the metadata. So if I came over here and hit OK, this keyword is going to be applied to this image here. And in this case, it's actually applying that metadata to both of these images because I had them both selected. So if you saw the little disclaimer that popped up, it's saying, hey, we're changing the metadata in these two images. It's applying these keywords to this image. And it's a quick and easy way to add keywords that you've already used before to your images without having to come in here and manually type them in. Next thing that we have available is magnification. So I can come in here and select this and I can magnify the image. So if I want to automatically start magnifying images as I go through, I can set that right there. The next section here is to sort your images. I can come in here and sort by any one of these methods that I want. For right now, we're just going to go ahead and leave that at file name. The next item is for rating your images. So I have this image select here, and as I click on it, it is adding stars or rating this image. And this little box right over here, if you click on it, this is a different way to rate your images. And you can see besides it a little number, and that corresponds to the keyboard. So if you didn't want to manually do it, if you wanted to make this one red, you could actually just hit the number 6, 7, 8, 9, or 0. In this case, but this is a rating function. You can also heart your images and reject an image as well. We'll just leave that up for right now. The last thing is the raw preview and how the computer or program renders your images. Right now it is on fast, and I will probably try both ways over the next couple weeks and see which one I like the best. You can either do fast or accurate. Accurate is most likely going to be a much better render than in fast. But for right now, we'll just go ahead and leave it at fast because truthfully, this process, as long as the image is good and clean and I can see if it's in focus, I would prefer it to be fast versus accurate or a really good image. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be importing a really large file and see how well the program handles it. I have about 1,000 images that I photographed at Assateague National Park. And we're going to import those and see how well it handles that many images. Now we have some more options over here, and we're going to come back to these. These kind of have to do with kind of the editing and actual manipulation of your images. And we're going to come back. So what we're going to take a look at today is the import process. So we're going to come up here and go to File and then go Import from a device. And that's going to most likely bring up a different window. And that's a little bit slow to come up, but there it is. Bam, just like that. It's loaded up these files and it's recognized my SD card. Now I've put these on an SD card versus a compact flash because I think most people watching this are going to be working off an SD card versus a compact flash card. So let's take a look at what this looks like. It looks like automatically it is showing us all the thumbnails, and we could easily scroll down through here. It looks like it's got them up pretty quick, which is good, good, good. We can check them all or check none or check all again. And we can probably manually select images when we're done. Eject when done. Now, this is something I love to select. What happens is after this has downloaded the images, it makes it so your SD card can just automatically be pulled out of your computer. You don't need to manually go in and dump it off your drive or your system to pull the card out. So this is something that I always select. It looks like down here we've got the ability to change our thumbnail views. I can make these thumbnails bigger or smaller. So I can select this and just kind of drag this over. It looks like we only have about 2 steps in this though, and it's a little laggy, but it does work. So we can go to this size or this size. Not a huge benefit, I think, between the two. Basically, I don't think most people are viewing their images at this point anyways, because I don't even look at mine. I just hit check all and then I'm going to import everything that way. Location, since I have set my SSD as the default location, it's automatically picking that. However, when I take my images to this SSD, I do want it to go to a very specific folder. I just don't want all my files in that location. So I can come in here and click new folder. And we'll go ahead and name this folder. I always use the date and I'll just make one up here. So we're going to go 04-23-2020. I always leave a slug about, what type of images are inside of these files, and we'll call this assateague. If I spelled it right. And that's good enough for there. So backup none, meaning do I want to send this to a secondary location? So as I'm sending them here, do I want to send them to another location? How do I want these files to be organized into one folder, by month, or by day? I always put into one folder. Basically what this is saying is if you did by day, if I took half these images on one day and half another, it would put each day's images into its own separate folder. I don't want that. I want everything from this shoot to be in one folder. It just makes it easier on me. Some people are more organized, might want that. No big deal. That would be where you would switch it. Right here, you could do it by month or day. I'm just going to leave mine into one folder. That's all I wanted. The next thing we have here is the ability to rename the images. You can see I've renamed my images right here. When I did this the first time, I set it up, changed it to assateague. And in this case, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and put the text, and we'll put this assateague horses. Our serial number, like where do we want to start this? I'm going to put 001, and that way it's automatically going to start at 001. Actually, I'm going to add another 0 in here because I know I have over 1,000 images. Now we could come in here and change it and have this by date or by text or current name if we wanted that available. Now you don't have to change the name. You could always use your current name if that was something that was good enough for you. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and change it just so I can show you how it works. Now you can come up here and hide and show this section depending on whether you want to hide or show it. And if you want to reset this, you can click this little reset button and this would set it back to its default in which nothing is selected. The next section is metadata, which I absolutely love. Now, I would most likely set up a preset. The best thing about a preset is you can set up all the basic information that's always the same in all your images, and it allows you to not have to type it in time after time after time after time. Now, I've got a little section down here that says more. We can add some more metadata information down here. And this is definitely something that I would fill out. So I would come in here and fill out all this information right here. And then once you are done, you're going to go ahead and save that. I don't have a preset set up. So we're going to come in here and hit save new preset. Going to ask you what you want to add to that, which is all this information. And then I'll just give it a name. And then I'll just put JW images. And I will hit OK. And that way, automatically by default, this is always going to show up and it's automatically going to add that information. Now, when I do import specific files, especially if I'm doing editorial work, you're going to see me add keywords, and I would add a description. So in this case, I might put photographs of horses at Assateague National Park. And then I would put the date here and information, but just an intelligent full sentence about that. I do use all this stuff, so all this stuff would be filled out, but I'm not going to waste your time in me doing this here. So we're going to be done. So once all that information is filled out, I'm ready to go. So I can come down here to the next section, which is photo settings. Now, what this allows you to do is apply a preset to all your images. So if I had a specific preset that made everything black and white, I could come in here, select this, pick that preset, and then automatically apply those to each image. You still can get your original raw image. You can't ever overwrite a raw image. It's just automatically applying a preset or something that you want to do to an image right away. In this case, we're not going to do that. And the last thing would be to edit your capture date. For some reason, if you don't have the correct date in your camera and you wanted to change that, that's going to allow you to do that. And then once you're done, I'm going to go ahead and hit import, and let's see how well this does. It's kind of popping these images. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to switch to this large thumbnail, and I'm going to start going through my images here because I want to see how fast they pop up and render. Because I usually edit very quickly, and I want to see how these pop up and what the speed of this is. It is definitely not as fast as Photo Mechanic or Bridge, but the cool thing is, unlike Lightroom, which kind of downloads all the images and then renders the preview, this is doing both at the same time. So this is pretty good that it's showing us all those images. So we can go back down here to a grid view and kind of scroll down and see how much we've gotten. And we'll just kind of let this go and see how fast it imports these images. I'm just going to click on this image. You can see right over here, it's applied that metadata information to this horse. It's showing us about my camera and how I photographed this and kind of all that pertinent information. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and let these images go ahead and download. And next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this tagging process and kind of the next steps in the workflow process of using OnOne Photo Raw 2020. My first impressions of the program, it's set up really well. It has all the basic functions all the major programs have. One of the big things I can't stand about Adobe Bridge is it has this little metadata section. And if you want to add a full bit of metadata, you have to do it after the fact, which drives me nuts. However, Lightroom metadata is full option, and Photo Mechanic, which I use, has the world's greatest metadata. Now, OnOne Photo Raw does have the exact same info that you would find in both Photo Mechanic and Lightroom. Overall, it seems to work pretty good. There's a couple things that are a little laggy on my computer. Overall, it's been a pretty good impression. I'm pretty happy with the way everything has performed up to this point. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.